All right, what's going on, everybody? This is Keith Reed, and I am so excited that we have the opportunity to share with you again. We are going through a slight rebranding, and our video podcast used to be entitled 5 Minutes on Worship. We are changing that title to Conversations on Worship. So, from henceforth, we will be introducing ourselves as Conversations on Worship. And I am Keith Reed. You can see that we have my spiritual nephew, Stephen Quattlebaum. And it's been a while since he's been in the fold, so I am excited that I get the chance to talk to him today a little bit about worship, one of our favorite subjects. And so as we are getting started, I want to encourage you, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and most of all, do me the biggest favor in the world. Share, share, share. Hit that share button. So that being, yes, sir. One more time. Share. All right.
Share it.
Yes, sir. All right. So I was sharing with you that the last time I had the opportunity to share in this forum, and I feel like I've said that word so many times. Just side note, I've said the word share more than we've heard the term unprecedented over the last several years. So anyway, the last time I had the opportunity to share in this forum, I was talking about the fact that we have in this dispensation of the church, in this generation, that we've definitely moved toward multiculturalism more so than in any given generation. With that being said, one of the backbones of the black community has always been the black church. And there is a certain rhythm, a certain style, there's a certain element that those of us who are in the community of faith that have grown up in the black church, it was our normalcy. I grew up in the 80s and in the 90s during the movement of like John P. Key, Hezekiah Walker, all of them when they were first getting their notoriety. And there was a big cultural shift that was going on at the time. And in each generation we can look to certain artists that were able to help usher that in. Now, of course, also during that time is when the worship genre of music began to actually manifest as well. And we got some of the trailblazers like Ron Canoli, Alvin Slaughter, Fred Hammond, in the 90s, that really began to bring forth this sound of what we now know as the praise and worship genre. Back then it wasn't so simplistic as it is now with a lot of the way how the songs are formatted, which I think does do a little bit of a disservice to our musical experience. I was sharing with you a little while ago that, those songs that we were doing back in that time frame challenged us with the lyrical content. It challenged us with the musical content that you had to actually know your instrument. You had to know how to play your instrument, especially if you were a keyboardist or if you were a guitarist, who are, generally the primary instruments that we rely upon to give us our harmonics. I'm getting a little technical, but that's okay because, we're speaking to worship leaders and worship arts ministries and whatnot. So that being said, with that in mind, I was recently having another conversation with a fellow musician and elder in the church who I greatly respect, and something that he said, and I was like, oh wow, okay, I would have never phrased it like this, but we're just going to keep this conversation raw and real. What he said was that the praise and worship genre of musically, that a lot of it was kind of like how during the beginning of the blues era, there were those who were involved in the music community that wanted to form some type of theoretical concept.
Yeah.
And he said that he felt like that is what has happened with the praise and worship genre of music. And now it has lost a humongous sense of authenticity. And it's like, okay, almost every time we go forth in a worship song, you can almost predictably uh, know when a drive
You
is
can
coming.
predict. Hmm.
Yeah, it's like,
Facts.
and it's like,
Absolutely.
yo, what happened to the okay? Let's be led, not okay. 2 minutes into the song, we're getting ready to go to the two and build to the four, and then go up to the five, and go to the seven, to the three, to the six. Those who are musicians who know the number system know the exact sequence I just named. So
No matter what the key it is, so you know exactly where it's going.
so let me pull you in. I know I've been doing a lot of talking. Let me pull you into this and let you kind of be the voice of your generation to tell me how do you view that? How do you view what we're talking about? Because I know you're the son of people who have been involved in music ministry, so you've lived this experience. I'm the son
Yeah.
of people who, were involved in this, but my father grew up in the era of, the funk in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and he raised, someone who came up in the era of funk, rock, punk, pop, you know, uh,
Mm,
you name it, I played it at some point. And especially hip
right.
hop, because, that really came about in my generation.
For sure. For sure. And I'll say for us, in our generation, um, I'll say for us, we take the simplicity of what's being given to us. We do expand it, to our, you know, I think more so because we're almost trying to mix anointing with talent. And because we are
Mm,
mixing anointing with talent, we are like some people, because they are not taught, they are say you are gifted, and they think, oh, that's my anointing. No, your gift is the talent which God gave you. Yes, you should practice that. You should, you know, build on that. Don't, be complacent where you are. All those good things that, we as musicians are told, singers are told, dancers are told, like all these different things, to help build our skill. But the anointing and the creativity, the spirit flowing in our creativity, I think is not necessarily is is not a practice anymore, because everybody talks about being on stage. Everybody talks about, you know, yes, be ready for the gig. Professionalism. That's the word I want. Professionalism. Everybody talks about professionalism and being ready, being always having your, knowing the two to the six to the five to the, like, we all know this. That's professionalism. But the spirit, I'm sorry, one second. I'm like the spirit behind it is causing um the spirit of professionalism is causing the spirit of God almost to move aside,
hmm
because that's what people rely on. People rely on more so the professionalism than they are relying on the spirit of God.
hmm
But the spirit of God is what breaks the yokes, and the spirit of God is what the
hmm
worshipers are supposed to be influenced by in order to use the music that is given.
Yeah.
Now, to the other point. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick before because I want you to pick up where you just left off. But what I was going to say, one thing that I want to put out here, a definition that I learned a long time ago, and it's accredited to Bishop John Stevenson, is that the definition of a worshiper is one who is acquainted with and has a daily relationship with God, exhibited
Mm-hmm.
through obedience. Okay, let me repeat that. One who is acquainted with and has a daily relationship with God that is
Mm-hmm.
exhibited through obedience. And so, what's the key factor in everything that you're saying? You have to begin with that foundation of relationship. If there is no
Mm-hmm.
relationship, then you can't hear. If there's no
That's
relationship,
it.
then you can't flow. How about
Can't
that?
flow.
Okay,
That's
and
good.
then so before you pick back up with what you were saying, the other thing that I want to say, and then I'll yield back to you, is that
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite things that I always like to introduce to young worshipers is that
Mm-hmm.
the way you know you are the most effective is the more invisible you become. The more people don't need your gift. Like you said,
Yeah,
now they rely on your grace, but they don't need your gift.
that's right.
So go ahead, bro.
And that's very true. Um, being invincible, or not invincible, being invisible is a key. Preparation is a key, as well as practice is a key.
Mm-hmm.
But invincibility causes people to want to seek the gift of the anointing behind the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, just to throw it out there, he was having a little pronunciation issue, but
Yeah,
invisibility,
not
not
invincible, invisible.
invincibility.
Yeah, not invincible. Like you can't be destroyed. Not that.
Yeah.
Not that. Like
Yes,
not
sir.
to be seen. Yeah, not to be seen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So,
Not the need.
mm-hmm,
I'll
mm-hmm.
say that the need, because and that's another thing. A lot of people have a need to be seen. They have a
Right.
need to want the attention. Have the need to, like, my gift is up there. Like I can do this. I can do this. A lot of people can do what you do.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's the honest truth. A lot of people can play the drums. A lot of people can sing. A lot of people can play keyboard these days.
Mm-hmm.
They can call. Listen, there's a young man. We all, majority of Columbus knows him. Antoine Walker. Atlanta knows him. Chicago knows him. Like that man is phenomenal, right?
I really
I know
know him, right?
know him. You
Yeah,
know him.
because he is my
So
first cousin.
exactly, exactly. People know him.
Mm-hmm.
His talent speaks for itself,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe Antoine has an anointing. I don't know if he actually always taps into it, but he does have an anointing. Like, but sometimes I feel like his talent overshadows the spirit of God that can flow through him. Like you said.
Yeah. So, so one thing that I will say, like I said, because Antoine is literally my blood. Um,
Right,
he, Antoine grew up in an environment where again, like I said, we grew up in this. So
right.
one thing that I will say, so Antoine produced my first professional um, worship project. If
Yeah.
you want to hear, if you want to hear the grace of God on Antoine's ability, listen
Hmm.
to that album.
That's good right there.
Antoine poured himself into that.
For sure.
Songs like "We Expect You," Songs like,
Mm-hmm.
We Praise You. He
Yeah.
presented a lot of different things. So, like, the grace that God had given me for worship leading and writing, when it was coupled with his anointing and grace for production, that was him
Yeah.
operating under the
Yeah. For
Spirit of
sure.
God. So, if you really want to
For
hear
sure.
um, his grace and gift, really listen to that project. I mean, and we recorded that back in like 2008, and the
Mm-hmm.
relevancy musically of that project can still not be questioned. And that was
Hey.
17 years ago. That was literally 17 years ago. I remember when we were recording that project, his son, Andrew, who is now, actually, you know what? Andrew wasn't even thought of, I don't think, while we were recording.
No, he wasn't even
Yeah,
born. Mm-mm.
yeah, I was going to say, when we were recording, his mother
Mm-hmm.
was actually carrying him. Because I
Mm-hmm.
remember she leads one of the songs on that album called I Must Travail. And she was pregnant with
Yes.
Andrew during that song. So, but again, like I said, there was just that grace that he carries was just very powerful during
Absolutely.
that recording experience. And so, but yeah, but I mean, like you said, but to go back, since he is someone that people would really recognize his name
Mm-hmm.
with my brother, with my cousin. He is someone that he is definitely now where he is now versus where he was a few years ago. There is a maturity in how he
Mm-hmm.
operates. That wasn't always
Absolutely.
there. And I believe he would even acknowledge it. It wasn't always there when he was doing some of the things early on in his career because, people got so caught up in the talent. But now he's
Yeah.
even mentoring others and saying, don't rely on the gift. Our
That's
friend
the gift.
Casanova Green says it this way: when you rely on the gift, it eventually becomes a gimmick.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, and I like to explain it like this: the gift may open the door, but the grace will keep it open. the
Mm-hmm.
the the anointing, and I keep saying
Yeah.
grace,
No.
and
Yeah.
I want to make sure I define this for people who don't follow what I'm saying. When I say grace, I mean, what is it that God has graced you to do? Are you
Yes.
anointed? Are you in position of this is what God has called as a part of your ministry, or is it your ministry? Because that's the other thing too. You have those who are operating outside of what they have been graced to do, because there are some that are graced to be singers that are not worship leaders. You have some
Mm-hmm.
worship leaders who couldn't sing themselves out of a wet paper bag, but they can exhort people into the presence of God. Um, and when they recognize that they can't sing out of a wet paper bag, that's the
That's
greatest thing
right.
ever, because then they're not a distraction.
Yeah.
but but I'm
Exactly.
but yeah, so I mean, we could go on and on and on, and on about this, but we're gonna cut it off here. Like I said, this is our expanded. Now we're not giving ourselves this 5 minute time frame limit on our podcast any longer. So we appreciate you being with us today. Now, one final thing that I do want to ask everybody, this kind of conversation.
Listen, I want y'all to understand you have to show up April 25th, April 26th for the New Beginnings Worship Conference. Be there. The kingdom culture is going to be released. There's a prophetic sound that's going to be released. I need you to desire and put a demand on heaven for the principles of God to be applied to your life so that the anointing and yoke destroying power of God can transform your life. You need to be there on the 25th and 26th of April. This conference is a powerful worship conference that's going to transform you from the inside out. Hosted by none other, the Keith Reed, New Beginnings, and the New Sound team is going to release upon us a sound that we've never heard before. The grace of God is going to show up like never before. The power of God is going to show up like never before. I want you to be a part of this. Go online and register now.